Hello, everybody, and welcome to Global Veg Fest. You've tuned in to the VIVAS live stream. So VIVAS is a global community and media brand for vegan women driven by compassion, purpose, and a bit of sparkle. We're delighted to have the opportunity to curate 2 live streams throughout this Global Veg Fest event throughout the weekend. We had one yesterday, and if you missed it, don't worry, it was all recorded and you can watch that at any time on the Veg Fest UK website and Facebook page. And I do encourage you to do so, because we had some wonderful, brilliant discussions yesterday. So the purpose of the VIVAS live streams is to showcase the voices and talents of vegan women across the globe. And I'm delighted to kick off our sessions. I'm Katrina Fox, by the way, if I didn't mention, I'm the founder of VIVAS, and I'm delighted to introduce our very first panel for this live stream, which is on the veganization of yoga. It's led by the brilliant, wonderful vegan pioneer, Victoria Moran, and 2 other wonderful women who are also yoga teachers and yoga students, looking to bring ahimsa, non-violence, and veganism into yoga. And they're going to talk about what they're having to come up against, and also how you can help to incorporate veganism into your yoga communities. So I'm delighted to welcome Victoria and guests.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody around the world. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm Victoria Moran. I'm the director of Main Street Vegan Academy, host of the Main Street Vegan podcast, and I've been in yoga just about 53 years. My fellow panelists are Holly Scotus, who is the founder of Yoga is Vegan, a project and podcast dedicated to inspiring yogis to go vegan. And she's in Connecticut. I'm in New York, so we're a little bit close geographically. And then we are calling on a wonderful additional panelist from the country where yoga was born. And she is Acharya Samhita Rathore, a traditional yoga teacher and founder of the Yogarpanam, who is committed to passing on the yoga tradition as taught to her by her guru, TKV Deshikachar. And Acharya Samhita is going to open with a traditional yogic blessing. Samhita.
Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I'd quickly like to explain this prayer. It's a beautiful prayer. Normally in the beginning of every study that we have, exchange that we have, we chant this prayer, and it just simply means, may we nurture each other, may we protect each other, may we give energy, vigor, vitality to each other, and may we see eye to eye, and may there be peace, peace, peace. We say peace 3 times, because peace for me, peace for my immediate environment, and peace for the entire cosmos. So it's a beautiful prayer.
Thank you so much, Samhita. Beautiful indeed. So we're going to each speak a little bit from our perspectives on the veganization of yoga. We're going to start with Holly Scotus, and she is Yoga is Vegan. And if you want to follow her on Instagram, she is at Yoga is Vegan. Holly.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you. Thank you for everyone showing up. I started Yoga is Vegan after going into a 500-hour teacher training. And during that training, my teacher said something that shifted my life, shifted the perspective of how I see yoga and veganism. And they asked, is your refrigerator a morgue? And it was at that moment of asking that question that all of a sudden, the reality of what was on your plate, the history, the involvement became really important, because it allowed me to then understand what the truth was behind what was happening. I seem to be getting a little feedback. Sorry. You guys hear me? Samita, can you mute your...
Yes, if Samita, if you and I both mute, we'll be good for Holly.
There we go. Okay, we'll try this again. Anyway, so when I did my first 500-hour teacher training, and this was back in 2014, I was mostly plant-based. I was already sold on the health benefits because I had turned my own life around, eating a whole food plant-based diet. And I did this 500-hour teacher training with Sri Dharma Mitra because the requirement was that we needed to be vegan during the duration of the training. And that was a 6-month training. And on that first day, hopefully you could hear me before, but I'm going to repeat it because it was probably the most poignant thing that shifted my relationship to food and how I see it in the yoga practice. And he asked everyone sitting in the room if our refrigerator was a morgue. And I thought that's the most important thing, because the moment you open up your refrigerator, you are then met with truthfulness. And you're met with this idea that what we put into our bodies, what we choose to do, has a history and an importance. And so during that time, we shifted to something called sattvic foods, which are more healthy, life-giving foods. And during this practice, we sat there and started to pick foods that brought life and vibrancy versus foods that were either dead, like a processed food, or dead because there was a history. And that's when I learned the importance that 3 meals a day can become a yoga practice, because often we think of yoga, especially in the West, as a practice that is a physical, postures only. But yoga is so much more important beyond that. It is tapping into oneness with universal consciousness. And the way that we can do that is by being aware, being conscious, being direct with our choices every time we sit down to eat, to snack. It gives us an opportunity to have reverence for what's there and to start to begin to understand our relationship to nature and how our actions or karma is then going to have a future importance on our planet, on our relationship to nature, on our relationship to other beings. And so finding that, being part of that, and coming up with a little bit of resistance in the yoga community, I found that when we can do it in a way where it's bringing food to a class or showing what you're doing through example and not shaming, we allow people to start having this practice as well. And I think that's what's important to understand. Yoga is a practice. It's not perfect. We don't go advanced. You don't stick your foot behind your head the first time you do yoga, but you can start to make different choices right as you sit down to eat. When you begin the day, how is what I'm going to put on my plate, how is that a right food choice? And does it reflect and change my relationship to other beings? And what I noticed happening from doing that is that things started to unfold. The practice started getting deeper. And when I got off track, I'd feel it. I'd feel how different foods, whether it was more processed food or something not full of life, fruits and vegetables, grains and sprouts, but you could feel them in your body, you can feel it in the mind. But the more that you start to align with better, right foods, the practice starts to unfold. And just as being vegan, we start to see the importance. And every single creature, we do exactly the same, but opposite, through pairing the practice of yoga and food. Victoria, on to you.
I'm sorry, my mute button was hidden. Holly, bless you. That was profound and beautiful. Thank you so very much. And now we're going to move to Samita, and I'll give you her Instagram as well. It is at Yogar Panam, YOGAR PANAM, and I will be putting those in the comments section as well. Samita.
Hi, Victoria. Hi, Holly. And hi, everybody. I'm in India right now, and I'm going to take over from what Holly said. I will just share with you. You see, I come from a family that followed yoga, and my grandfather was a yogi. He was a doctor with the British Army in those days. And I learned one thing as a kid. Everybody thinks that yoga, as Holly was saying, is about postures and about the breathing and about, how much you can bend backwards and forwards. But yoga is actually a way of life. It's a way of living. And there's a beautiful quote by my teacher, Desikachar, that yoga is not about asanas, it is not about pranayama, it is not about dhyana, but it is the way we connect with ourselves. Now, the way we connect with ourselves is a very, very foundational, integral part and aspect of yoga, because our connection with ourselves is totally dependent on our environment inside and our environment outside. So, for example, okay, if you are, you're just hanging around and it's like really, really hot and you start sweating, nobody's going to be comfortable. Okay. Similarly, all the inputs that we take inside could create a lot of heat in our body, and when heat is created, it can create restlessness, it can create agitation, it can mess around with the organs of the body. And this is just one example, because in yoga we have the concept of dvandva. It's a Sanskritam word, but it means, if there's backwards, then there's forward, there's up, there's down. So just imagine what happens when we consume something which creates excess heat in the body, and this excess heat, the next form of heat, is vapor. So vapor is nothing but air, and air starts bloating the body, and then it goes into all kinds of issues. So I'm just taking one example and trying to just drive home a point that it's so important to give our body nurturing sattvic food, because if I can't have a connect with my own self, then how am I going to connect with the world outside? And the whole concept of yoga, the first ground rule of yoga is ahimsa. And ahimsa is non-violence. And non-violence begins with me. How can I expect to behave in a certain manner with the universe outside if I don't have a good connect with myself? And I think the inputs, and input would be food. What we intake is so integral, but it begins with the food, because we have the 5 layers, as many of you would know. The physical layer, which is the first layer of the body, which is the annamaya, we call it. Annam in Sanskrit means food, the food sheath, you see. So we are nothing but chemicals and nutrition. So if we don't intake the right food, then again it's going to create a lot of issues with psychological well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being. And also I think that when we talk food, it's not just food, but it's a way of living, it's a way of life. And whatever we intake has to be gentle, has to be kind. And yeah, there's something out here. Okay, I missed that. But yeah, I mean, it's no rocket science, right? I mean, like, who doesn't want to feel comfortable? And if it's the basic, like, how can we see something suffering out there and it's causing suffering in our own body? And my Vedanta teacher, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, he would always make a joke, and he would tell us in class that don't make your body a graveyard for dead animals, because it's just putrid, it's just gonna stay there. And each to their own, not telling anybody what to eat and consume, but these are facts. And I just feel for a wholesome yoga practice, the consumption of food is merely a thought process of being compassionate and kind. So I think This is something I would advise all my yoga friends, students, practitioners who are trying. They may come from different backgrounds, to just give it a little thought, just think about it. And yeah, and I think that says it all. If you would want to add anything, but I just feel a lot in my heart about simple. I mean, there is no rocket science. Again, just be kind. Just be kind. Just be compassionate. That's it.
I muted instead of unmuting. Hi, everybody. Victoria again, and I'll take my little part starting with my story. I discovered yoga when looking for God in the Kansas City, Missouri Public Library, where I grew up. I was 17. There were 3 books on yoga available at that time. And one thing that they all agreed on was that if a person was going to be serious about yoga, they would have to be vegetarian. And that resonated with me. I'd heard that word vegetarian years before, and I knew there was something in it for me, even though I had never met one. But I was able to move to London just out of high school, where there were vegetarians and vegetarian restaurants and actual yoga classes. So with the combination of yoga and vegetarianism being available, I was able to do that. Now, I had never heard of veganism, but I did about 3 years later when I had moved back to the States. And interestingly enough, at that time, the monthly journal of the American Vegan Society was called Ahimsa. And I saw this beautiful connection between what I had been taught as yoga's first moral precept, and I loved how Samhita called it the first ground rule. That's beautiful. And this vegan organization. And I have to admit that it took me several years to make it to vegan. I did lots of backsliding, but finally getting there, there's so much freedom in knowing not only that I'm making the ethical choice, but that I'm making the spiritual choice that's also going to support my own progress, as well as saving lives and making the world kinder. So where we are today, as I see it in the yoga world, and it's kind of funny because when I was young, there was no yoga world. I kind of watched the yoga world happen, although it's really the yoga Western world, as I'm sure Samhita could tell us. But there are some vegans, and the work of people such as Holly with Yoga is Vegan. Vegan yoga systems like Jiva Mukti are doing so much to get this picture of pure ahimsa, going all the way with ahimsa into the yoga picture. And so there are some vegans, and there are some vegetarians, because yoga traditionally has been vegetarian. A good kind of vegetarian, no eggs and no fish. Sometimes we get people saying, oh, I'm vegetarian, but I eat, well, practically everything. But a yogic vegetarian is a pure vegetarian. Dairy has been allowed. And I think what's so interesting there is trying to honor this tradition and how things were 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, and how things are today, and that there is evolution even in spiritual systems as well as in our personal lives. And then, of course, today in the West, we certainly run into people who practice yoga, who are prominent in yoga, who aren't vegetarian. I remember a conversation with one who was telling me, oh, isn't it great now that there's humane farming, we don't have to be vegetarian anymore. And I remember somebody, this was Madame Blavatsky, who was a theosophist back in the 1800s, and somebody said to her, well, what's wrong with eating meat? And she said, well, I suppose nothing if you don't want to slow down your spiritual growth. Well, I think there's plenty wrong with it besides slowing down your spiritual growth. But I did think of that quotation when I was speaking with this beautiful yoga teacher who's so committed to her spiritual growth, but somehow doesn't quite get that piece. So what I see for myself as a yoga practitioner, I do some teaching as well, is getting ahimsa front and center, because it is, as Samita said, the first ground rule, to celebrate not only yoga and veganism in terms of ahimsa, but yoga and vegetarianism as perhaps the first nutritional system presented to the world. When we talk about the food groups that the plant-based doctors recommend, those, with the exception of the dairy, were the same groups that the ancient yogis and those early Ayurvedic doctors were recommending as well. So we've got a real jump on the health thing. And then now, of course, the environment. Now, that wasn't an issue thousands of years ago. And yet nature, reverence for nature, finding our place within the natural world has always been essential to yoga, and certainly to its sister science of Ayurveda. And if we can share that, and most importantly, if we can live it, I'm a big fan of attraction activism. If the way that each of us lives our lives as vegan yogis has something to offer someone else, then a lot of them are going to want to do what we're doing. So I'm just looking at our time. We have 4.5 minutes left. I want to save 1 minute for another beautiful blessing from Samita. But for now, I'd like to just open it up to my two co-panelists. Who has a thought?
Well, I'll go ahead and piggyback off of you, Victoria. You know, I didn't, oh, Samita, can you mute your mic for a second and then I'll pass it? There we go. You know, what are those things in the ground rule of yoga, and you know, leading by example. I think if we can start showing other yoga practitioners the positive aspects of the practice and taking out that aspect of shame. You know, sometimes with veganism, with activism, we get so passionate that I think sometimes we can turn somebody off because they think we're better than, or we're doing, you know, we're putting them down. And if it can be done in a way where you are inspirational. My first yoga teacher back at Black Dog Yoga in Los Angeles, he was vegan. We didn't know, but the only thing he would do is every Friday he brought in vegan cookies, and that was his way of activism. And we all got excited over these peanut butter cookies, and then we eventually asked him for the recipe, which led to the book. But he had this pure, beautiful practice, and he was so kind and compassionate towards everybody that you just wanted to start living your life the way that he was. And I think if we can start doing more of that, we might be in a good place to inspire others to go vegan. Samita, did you want to add something?
I think Holly and me talked about this a while back, and we both feel the same way, because what happens, a lot of people feel uncomfortable because, you know, you say, oh, you're not vegan, how can you eat meat? We don't want to do that. We just want to introduce the thought process and the science behind it, and be gentle with the people, and, you know, I mean, like, just bring in the concept or the transformation in a very gentle way, you know, not to put anybody down, or not to say that, you know, I'm better than you, and, you know, you eat meat and I don't eat meat. And it's just a very, very personal choice, what a person should eat. But I think our responsibility is to educate people, and if we can do it in a gentle manner, in a gentle way. And this is very important, what Victoria also said, that, you know, the first step of the ladder in yoga is ahimsa. So this is not explained, you know. People just start off with postures, and then the whole focus goes into postures and breathing and how much you can bend and what you can do. But remember, the posture is just the third step out of the 8 step. And the first step, to be qualified, you have to have a plant-based diet. And another quick thought that came to my head was, and this is based on what Victoria was saying, that things have changed now. The suffering that the animals have to go through in this in this period, in this time, 21st century, is very sad. And ignorance is bliss. And I happen to see what happens, and I'm sure if you see too, you will feel like nobody deserves that. So things were very different even 50, 100 years back. Nobody did what is done these days with the animals.
So true. Samita, I know that you want to close with another blessing chant. So it's time for that now.
Sure, Victoria. And I'd just like to say the first prayer was about connect. So, whenever we start something, we connect. And the closing prayer is about just honoring the consciousness and the creation. And I'll just chant it for all of us. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So this prayer means basically the consciousness is full and the creation is also full. And from this consciousness, this creation, which is also full, has emerged. And when this creation is merged in the consciousness, what remains is again wholesome and full. And Om, peace, peace, peace.
So beautiful, Samita. Thank you both. Everybody find us on Instagram, and thanks to VIVAS and to the Global Veg Fest. May you have a wonderful rest of the festival. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Victoria, Samita and Holly. What a wonderful presentation, all about yoga and how we can help to veganize it and educate people in the communities. And you're all wonderful. Thank you in particular to Samita for joining us all the way from India. And if you want to follow any of the women, their Instagrams are in the comments section. So if you're just joining us, you're tuning in to the VIVAS live streams. VIVAS is a global community and media brand for vegan women, and we're delighted to be able to showcase the voices and talents of vegan women during the live streams that we've got here at Global Veg Fest. I'm Katrina Fox, the founder, and I'm delighted to introduce our next session, which is also a panel discussion, and it's called Vegan Women Authors, Amplifying Your Message and Movement Through Books. We've got the wonderful Mitali Depuskaitsa, who is a vegan book coach and publisher. She's going to be hosting a panel with 3 other vegan women authors who've written in very different genres, and they're going to be talking about the writing process, finding your confidence as a woman and as a vegan, and of course how you can use books to amplify your message. So really looking forward to this. Please welcome Mitali and guests.
Katrina, we've got a technical problem, which unfortunately just going to have to pause us whilst we get our guests. So I don't know if you want to perhaps pause and we can come back, or we can continue talking about some of your authors here.
Okay, I can do a bit more of an intro, so maybe let you know about.
Yeah, I think
Katrina to get in touch with them.
Get in touch yourself. So we can either pause, or I can talk a little bit about how fabulous some of those authors are, because I've been working with some of them.
Awesome. Pete, can you just drop me out of the stream so I can?
Right. There we go. So here I am speaking in the VIVAS Vegan Women's Leadership panel. Tim from Global Veg Fest, and we're just having a couple of tech problems whilst we just hook up on the live screen. So I'm just sort of doing a continuity here. So first of all, I will say how grateful I am for Katrina for putting this together. And honestly, what an amazing opportunity for vegan women all over the world. The VIVAS Vegan Women's Leadership is, in my opinion, the best thing to come out of lockdown in the vegan movement. And it gives an opportunity for vegan women all over the world to develop and come together and exchange ideas. I think especially for these speaking roles and platforms to really develop some confidence and experience in hopefully what is a friendly, supportive, and quite relaxed and chilled environment. So I'm thrilled, and I think it's really important that we see more women, and especially women from the global majority, so a diverse range of women from all over the world, speaking up and sharing experiences, especially to do with activism, with feminism, and women's rights, human rights, of course, animal rights, environmental rights. And, we're just so respectful of this. And this weekend, we've been able to hear really some amazing voices. I'm just thrilled on it. Hopefully share. We're going to build on this for future. So I'm absolutely thrilled that we're back, and we've got Katrina ready to introduce the rest of the panel. And here we are, Katrina, well done.
Yay! And we're back. Oh, the wonders of technology and little technical hitches. But hey, they say the best things in life are worth waiting for, and I know this panel is going to be one of them. So as I mentioned, this panel is about vegan women authors, how to use books to amplify your message and your movement. We've got Mitali Depuskaitsa, who is a vegan book coach and publisher, hosting the panel, along with Heather Landex, who's written a business book, Inclusivity is the New Exclusivity. I may have said that title wrong. Sorry, Heather. We've also got Maya, and we have got Jackie Norman, and they've written different books. I'm actually going to let Mitali take this away. I just wanted to say a big welcome. I'm really looking forward to it. Take it away, Mitali.
Thank you, Katrina. I'm so sorry we're late as well. Wonders of technology, eh? So hello, and thank you for joining us for this exclusive vegan authors panel as part of VIVAS and VegFest UK Online. As Katrina said, my name is Mitali Depuskaitsa. I'm the founder of Let's Tell You Story Publishing, and an all-round friend and ally of vegan business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm passionate about amplifying the voices of as many vegan and ethical business owners as possible. My goal is I want to raise our collective voices so they become so loud that the exploitation of animals and the environment will have to stop once and for all. And I found one of the best ways for a business owner to raise their visibility and profile is to write a book, to become an author. However, this is going to be a really boring panel if it's just me banging on for the next 20 minutes about why you need to be a published author. So I'm joined by 3 awesome female authors who can give you a first-hand account of how writing a book can be transformative for your business and your life. So I think Katrina's gone around very, very quickly, but I'm going to do you ladies more justice. I hope you don't mind. So I'm going to go around the room quickly. First, you've got Heather Landex, who is a vegan, food safety, and inclusivity expert. She's the author of the bestseller, Inclusive, the New Exclusive. One of these days, I'm going to be able to say it right without, wrapping my tongue around it. And it shows the restaurants how they can risk less by better serving customers with dietary preferences, and how they're practically leaving money on the table right now by not doing so. Next, we have Maya Cohen-Ronan, who is an animal rights activist, a feminist, and the author of the Liberation Trilogy, a series of thrilling dystopian suspense novels with a vegan and animal rights message. And last but certainly not least, we've got Jackie Norman, a vegan activist and founder of Vegan FTA. We should pay you, Heather. We're committed to fighting for a vegan world. She's the author of Everyday Vegan, which shows people how to cook nutritious, tasty vegan meals, even if they're incredibly busy. So we actually have a non-fiction business author, a fiction author, and a cookbook author. I mean, what an amazing mix. You can't really get more diverse than this. So thank you so much. And me, of course.
Yes.
I'm trying to give you guys the limelight. I'll have my glory right at the end, don't worry. But thank you for joining me, ladies. So the first question I want to ask you, so I think a lot of people will be interested, is why did you write the book in first place? Because we all know writing a book is fun, but it's also an endeavor. It's no walk in the park, is it? So the first question I want to ask you is, why did you write a book? So let's start with Jackie. What motivated you to write your book?
Oh, crikey. There was two reasons, really. I think the first one was because upon going vegan, I should say I co-wrote it with my husband, Gareth. He was a photographer. And when we went vegan, you know, we found that vegan food was about as far removed from being restricted as it can possibly be, as the wonderful ladies will show you with the big burger on the front. You know, it's colorful, it's healthy, it's delicious. And we really wanted to share that joy of vegan cooking in food. And the second reason, like Maya, we are animal rights activists, and we wrote the book as a form of activism. So I'm sure I can speak for many vegans when I say you can write a social media about the plight of animals and the silence is deafening on the other end. But when you share a picture of vegan food, everyone is like drooling over it, wanting the recipe. And, you know, it would be great if the plight of animals was the reason that more people became interested in veganism. But the reality of my personal experience, at least, was that, you know, our food and recipes have resulted in a lot more people engaging with the idea of a vegan lifestyle than anything negative or confrontational that we've shared. And so it's the kind of voice that we found people are more open to listening to. There's no guilt or shame. There's you know, no finger pointing. So there's only the joy and the positive benefits, which we tried to convey in our book.
That's interesting. I think that's human nature, really, isn't it? You know, you can try and shame or embarrass people into making a change, but it's only going to happen for a short amount of time. Then they go back to their old ways. But if you inspire people to make that change, it's usually lasting. That's really interesting. Maya, I'd love to go to you next. I've started reading your first book. I mean, as soon as I heard that you wrote dystopia, I was like, that is my bag down to a T. So I was going to read it anyway. But I'd love to know why you wrote fiction, why you wrote your books.
I'm a reader, and I couldn't find a single book to read that is, my favorite is dystopia, thriller, you know, detective whodunit kind of genre. And I was grasping, taking books to read, and every time I started a book, immediately the speciesism kind of jumped at me, and all the animal cruelty that is so embedded in every page of the book. You know, you get a protagonist that is hunting, you have them eating bacon, you have so many forms of animal cruelty and everyday speciesism, and it just became too hard to bear. I just stopped enjoying reading, and I loved reading, and I've always written. So I decided, you know, it's not there. Create it. Just use the skills that you've got to create something new. And when I wrote the first book, The Shed, the first book in the trilogy, it was not just in order to get something that had no animal cruelty or no speciesism. I actually used it, like Jackie said, as a form of outreach, as a way to tell something, a message about veganism and animal rights. So both elements covered.
That's fantastic. You've spoken like a true inventor. You couldn't find it in the real world, so you invented it. I love that. Heather, we've known each other for a while now, so I know your journey, but I just want you to tell people what made you write your book, Inclusive, the new exclusive.
Well, I guess mine's activism as well, but it's more about not discriminating against people for their diets. And actually, it is exclusive to be inclusive because, like Jackie was explaining, Jackie actually features in my book. She's a contributor. The journey began because in 2019, I had my own severe allergy attack. And whilst at the hospital, they told me I was probably very allergic to milk, which isn't an easy thing to be told, especially if, like me, you're in the food service industry, inspecting places for food safety. It didn't really occur to me that vegan food actually has a lot of disclaimers on it. So I told the doctor, I can't be allergic to milk, I'm vegan. And she said it's very, very common that people have a reaction to vegan food because they assume it's free from milk, egg, fish, shellfish, which are very common allergies. So the overlying principle is you have to respect people's preferences, not only to protect them from injury if they've got an allergy or intolerance or another health condition, but to protect their well-being. And actually, vegans do become very lactose intolerant if they've been vegan for long enough. Anyone avoiding milk for long enough becomes naturally lactose intolerant. So I'm basically trying to do the educational angle on activism that people don't realize how cruel and mean and ignorant they are. They're actually discriminating against people when they have these disclaimers that say, don't eat this if you're vegan, an allergy sufferer, if you have a health condition. There's all these things about peanuts when actually milk is the most deadly, most common allergy, especially in the UK.
It kind of horrifies me that, you know, I've been vegan for nearly 10 years and I've probably been still eating and drinking milk because it's been in things that have been labeled vegan, which is just not right, really. It's just not on.
There's a general lack of awareness what vegan means as well, which is also another way to explain to people what veganism is and all the different reasons why you might be vegan without being a typical activist.
Love it. Okay, so the next question I want to ask, and I'm sure people will be interested in this, is what has the book done for you? Because like I said, I think I said in the beginning, you know, writing a book is it's a fantastic journey. Definitely was for me. But at the same time, there were parts of my journey where I just wanted to stick pins in my eyes. It was just a nightmare as well. I'm sure you guys all felt this too. So it's an endeavor. So I'm sure people want to know, well, what did the book do for you? Was it worth it? So let's start with Maya this time. What did the book do for you? What was the effect of the book once it was published?
Well, when I was writing the first book, it was the first book I've ever written for the purpose of publishing it, getting it out there. And I was, throughout writing it, I was very unsure if it's going to be well accepted because I wasn't sure in my skills. I had days when I thought, oh yeah, this is brilliant. And then the other days when you think, oh, this is rubbish. And you move between this kind of pendulum that you move in between and you doubt yourself. And then when the book is out there, it's like birthing this book and you start getting the really good feedback, the people really loving it. Not just the vegans, but the pre-vegans who are exposed to it and they read it. And then I got comments like, this book is changing my life. I'm making the change. I finally get it. And so that is really, and it's so rewarding because you feel I use my voice, my unique skills to do something in the world, to do something that will impact the life of other people, but also the life of animals. And it's amazing. Yeah, and I'm still in this journey because I'm currently writing a script, a screenplay for the first book. So I'm still in this journey of exploring everything that I can get out of this trilogy.
I think the wonderful thing about a book, Maya, is it's you are leaving a legacy, you know, with other kinds of content, especially online content. It's so fleeting. It's there, then it's gone. But with a book, it's there, and it's probably going to outlast you, really, isn't it? So
I hope so.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure it will. I'm halfway through your first book, and I'm loving it. So I'm pretty sure they will outlast you. Let's move on to Heather. I mean, please tell me, give me stories. I've already heard some of your stories, but the effect that it's had on you since publishing your book.
It's not even since publishing. It's since the day I decided to write a book, and probably since the day I had a book cover. Because I didn't even write my book before I started interviewing people who are expert in the industry. And there's 50 different opinions in here that all say the same thing, that it's smart if you take care of people with allergies or dietary preferences. So that gave I sort of started on a hunch, like, why are people not serving people with allergies, especially if they could have a vegan option that's actually a vegan option that can serve a lot of people with allergies? Why? This is really common sense. And I think writing it in a book and getting someone to help me edit it, because it was too many words, has helped me sort of narrow down what it is I do and clarify to people that this is a good idea, instead of me just whittering on in one person's ear. I'm now whittering on in hundreds and hundreds of people's ears, if not thousands, especially because it's given me access to platforms like this where I can speak to more people at once. And a lot of people are shocked to hear how the food industry is and the status quo. And that's quite exciting. I think I just find it really exciting all the time, just permanently in a state of excitement. And I think even writing the book, people don't necessarily read the book, but I have a Kindle version. And when I released the Kindle version, it sold all over the world and people were reading it the same day, like the whole book. And that got me to international bestseller status, which was a bit of a shock for my ego because I thought I was just this quiet little voice. And a lot of the process of going through it, I've had to evolve personally to accept that if I want to shout about allergies and veganism, I have to be visible. And that is a massive, frightening thing in the beginning. So you do have to have a lot of support around you. And I've noticed a thing called vegan magnetism, that people like Vitaly and Jackie support you because you're willing to stand out and shout about it, despite maybe feeling it's risky if you're famous. I know I'm not famous, but in my little niche, no one else does this. And I think it's just being heard.
You are unique. You are
It's
unique.
being heard. That's all it's about.
I think that's,
I'm going to do an audio bit like you, Vitaly. I think it's another way to talk to people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I mean. You know my background. I've been a copywriter and a ghostwriter for over 10 years, and I've written all kinds of things. But I keep coming back to the book because that really is the piece of content that I think I just said to you, Maya, it outlasts you. All the other content is so fleeting and it's just here, there, and it's gone. But when you write a book and the effort it takes to write a book, the visibility you get and the authority you get, it's unsurpassed with any other kind of content. So definitely great for amplifying voices. Jackie, let's finish with you. I'd love to hear some stories about you. You've kind of touched on it already that, you'd be able to inspire people into veganism instead of just making them feel bad about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, writing a cookbook. I'm the author of, this is my third book. So I've written two, regular books for want of a better description before. And this was the first cookbook. And I think the biggest thing it taught me is to back myself. If anything, it's when you're writing for yourself, you're writing what you want, the way you want it. And when you do a cookbook, one thing I learned more than anything is you need to write recipes so that they're absolutely idiot proof and that people can't get them wrong, because you want them to work and you want them to taste as good for everybody else as they do for you. And it's really nerve-wracking. We doubted ourselves and our skills so many times. When you're developing recipes, you might think that they're great, but will anybody else, even our friends and our family who tested them 3 times over, we still kept wondering, do you really like them? Or, are you just saying that so you don't hurt our feelings, So once the book hit the shelves and we started getting this amazing feedback from total strangers, that was a really wonderful feeling. And we learned that we should really trust ourselves and our intuition and definitely our palate as well. And I think the other thing that I really got from it was it really made us step up, as a leader, particularly me as a female, leader in the movement. We sort of had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Clapper last year, and he told us that the best way to consistently make a difference is to lead by example. So we followed his advice, and I really find this to be true, especially when it comes to food choices. Like we're saying, food activism may not get people to make the switch straight away, but in our experience, it does seem to help to get people on board, like you say, when they don't feel challenged or pressured. So, it showed me that can't just help to create change, it's proven it really. So I think
that sounds so gratifying. If you've had messages from people saying they're looking to become more vegan just on the strength of your book, I mean, that must be so gratifying.
Definitely. No, it's been the best thing. And so many, pre-vegans as well. I just thought that it was going to be this big influx of just people that are already vegan, but I would say it'd be at least 50-50,
That's fantastic.
Well,
thank you, ladies. This is a very short panel, so we couldn't really say very long, but this has been really interesting. I mean, to have 3 awesome female authors who've written very different books. I mean, I think I said before, you can't really get more diverse. And yet at the same time, you're all pushing the same message of a kinder, a more compassionate vegan world. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are looking to write, who are going to feel more motivated now after listening to you. So thank you for joining me. Before we go, I just want to quickly go around the room because I want people to know how they can connect with you. So if we want to start with Heather first, how can people connect with you?
So if you wanted a copy of my book, I always give it to vegans at cost. just there's a little activism going on there.
Yeah.
So you can actually go to book.heatherlandex.com, and I'm only the only Heather Landex on the internet. You can always stalk me on LinkedIn or something, and then use the coupon code vegan special, and that's a very good way to get all the inclusions of postage and taxes and whatever around the world. I'm still trying to get my book over to New Zealand with Jackie.
I'm still
Wow.
waiting. I've got Maya's.
It really is on the other side of the planet, though, isn't it? Maya, do you want to let everyone know how people can connect with you?
Well, the trilogy is on Amazon and also Book Depository. But if you want to follow me, I'm on Facebook, MC Ronan, and also on Instagram, MC Ronan _activist_author.
Awesome. And last but definitely not least, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I've sold out of my own book at the moment, and we haven't been able to get any more because, you know, pandemics and things. But I think you can still get them online. You know, Booktopia and Book Depository and Amazon. You can get them online. You just can't get it in stores anymore. So have a look online. You should be able to find it. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. I would say the best way to connect with me is probably through Vegan FTA. That's Vegan for the Animals. So if you check that out on Facebook, you can connect with me on there. No problem.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. I've been Natalia Depakaisa from Let's Tell You Story Publishing. This is your time now, Heather, to wave my book finally. As well as helping vegan and ethical business owners become published authors, I'm also author of my own best-selling book, The Freedom Master, which is all about how becoming an author can transform your business and amplify your voice. Because I think I said earlier, I'm passionate about turning as many vegan business owners into published authors so we can finally live in a truly vegan world. So if you're interested in connecting with me, if you're interested in becoming published, go to my website, letstellyoustory.com, or you can find me on any social media platform. I'm Natalie Book Pro. So thank you to my awesome guests. Thank you to the lovely Katrina Fox of VIVAS for giving us this space. And of course to VegFest UK for creating and hosting a phenomenal platform for us vegans to get together and collaborate. So thank you for your time, and I'm sure I'll see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Mitali, Heather, Maya, and Jackie, all fabulous women. How inspiring. As a fellow vegan author, I can attest to everything they've said. It really is a great way to get your message out there. And if you are thinking about writing a book, just do it. You know, just have the confidence, like Jackie said, to back yourself and put yourself out there. If you've just joined us, you have tuned in to the second of the VIVAS live stream platforms here at Global Veg Fest Online. VIVAS is a global community and media brand for vegan women, and the VIVAS live streams are to showcase the voices and talents of vegan women from across the globe. We are about to round out this live stream for VIVAS with a performance. We have Australian singer-songwriter Mem Davis and her band, the Mem Davis Collective, performing an original song. Enjoy.
Is deep, it cuts into the soul, and all of life's mirrors reflect on that hole where it's empty inside. It's empty inside. Tiny fingers and tiny toes. Time's ticking on now as everyone knows, and they're aching inside. So many hands want to hold me tonight, but none of them want to hold on. Where is the one who will hold me for life? Where have the real people gone? Where have the real people gone? You live through the joy of your friends and their arms. You notice the silence that sleeps in your home, and it's quiet inside. it's all by and by. Watch the dream inside. So many hands want to hold me tonight, but none of them want to hold on. Where is the one who hold me for life? Where have the real people gone? Where have the real people gone? I don't want to be rescued. I don't need to be saved. I don't want to be loved on and wrung out and hung out to dry. I don't want to be rescued. I don't need to be saved. I don't want to be roughed up and hung out to dry again. Oh, no, I don't want to be. Oh, no, I don't want to be. I don't wanna be. Oh, no, I don't wanna be. So many hands wanna hold me tonight, but none of them wanna hold on. Where is the one who hold me for life? Where have the real people gone? Where have the real people gone?
Thank you so much to Mem Davis and her band, the Mem Davis Collective. How amazing, isn't it? So much talent in the vegan community. I think that was a really wonderful song. That was an original song. So do check out Mem's band, the Mem Davis Collective. If you've just joined us, we are just coming to the end of the VIVAS live streams for Global Veg Fest. I'm Katrina Fox. I'm the founder of VIVAS, which is a global community and media brand for vegan women. You can sign up for our free newsletter, or you can join as a full member where you can get access to regular meetups, virtual networking, live webinars, resources, and lots more. We provide a lot of connection, collaboration, and it's a really beautiful community. You can find out all the details at thevivasnetwork.com. We've now come to the end of the VIVAS live streams over this weekend. If you've missed any of them, we had a whole live stream yesterday and the one today. Don't worry, it's all been recorded and you can go and catch any of those recordings. And I highly recommend that you do so, because we've had some absolutely brilliant women from across the globe on a whole range of topics. So on behalf of VIVAS and myself, I'd like to thank VegFest UK, Global Veg Fest, which is being organised by VegFest UK, for giving VIVAS this opportunity to showcase vegan women. It's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of Global Veg Fest. Bye for now.